Welcome to today's episode of Departures Travel, Departures Lounge, sorry. Sorry we're a little bit late today. We had a bit of a glitch and we're back up and running. My name's Kathy Scott. I'm the owner of Departures Travel in Oak Bay Avenue and co-owner of Departures Travel in Sydney, along with Kathy Larson, who is here from co-owner of Departures Travel in Sydney. So we have a fantastic episode for you today. We're super excited to have with us Cynthia Reid, who is with Abercrombie and Kent. She's been with them for 31 years, and she has a Master's of Arts from Stanford University. And she has traveled to over 125 countries in all 7 continents. So super excited to have them on board talking to us about the wonders of Japan today. So Cynthia, welcome, and we're looking forward to our show today.
Thank you, Kathy, and your partner, Kathy Larson. It's been such a pleasure working alongside you and your team for all these years. Let me confirm to your clients listening how fortunate they are to be in the care of Departures Travel Advisors. Departures Advisors are some of the most knowledgeable and best travel professionals in our industry. Our company, Abercrombie & Kent, was founded nearly 60 years ago in Kenya. From there, we developed the international network to deliver award-winning luxury travel in over 100 countries on all 7 continents. From developing the first luxury tinted safaris, we have expanded to 30 years of expedition cruising in the polar regions. For example, we operated several successful Northwest Passage cruises above Canada. And next year, we are offering the Northeast Passage from Norway to Nome across the top of Russia. We offer the finest travel experiences in South America, Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. We excel in behind-the-scenes private experiences in Europe, including renting an exclusive villa or chartering a canal barge, both of which are proving popular for 2021. We own our own Nile River luxury yachts in Egypt and provide exclusive tinted camps in Morocco's Sahara Desert. Anywhere that your dreams can take you, we are the company with whom to travel. We hope to have the privilege of taking you to Japan or anywhere on your bucket list very soon with our friends at Departures Travel. And now let's get an update on Japan. Joining us from our Asian office is our Executive Director of China, Japan, and Northern Asia, Mr. Gerald Hatherley. Gerald has been with us for 34 years. He creates many of our itineraries throughout Asia. He leads tours for some of our private groups. He's an in-demand speaker on various topics, and I know you'll understand why when you hear him speak. He has been awarded the Condé Nast Traveler designation as top China expert for 18 years. No one else has come close. He has been traveling to Japan from his home in Hong Kong, where he is zooming in today, since 1983. And a fun local fact, he is a proud graduate of the University of Victoria with double major graduate degrees in Oriental Studies and Bachelor's of Science. Please welcome my friend and colleague, Gerald Hatherley.
Thank you so much, Cynthia, and thank you, Kathy and Kathy, for this opportunity today. I am so excited to have a virtual visit to Victoria, and I must say it was the University of Victoria, I just thought about this, that triggered my interest in Asia. I was a science major, but met one of the Chinese professors who convinced me to take a class, and I ended up going for an additional year to fulfill all the credits for Oriental Studies. And that sort of launched me on this sort of unpredictable journey I've had. So I'm so excited to be here today and talk about one of my favorite destinations, which is Japan. I think, whereas my background was in China, I spent many years studying and traveling and working in China. I have fallen in love with Japan because among all the countries in Asia, it has this incredible sort of dichotomy. It is a country at the forefront of innovation and technology, but yet it stays deeply rooted in this incredible traditional culture. But before I start, I would just like to briefly talk about the situation as it exists around the world with the pandemic and what's going on in our part of the world, especially with Japan. As you know, we are at the forefront, whether it was Hong Kong, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan. Because the pandemic originated in China, we are among the first countries and regions hit. However, I must say the governments throughout the region took this very seriously, and they have managed. We're now in our 4th wave, but we are continuing to manage this. And in Japan, what we're very positive about, they have a new prime minister as of September 14th. And his first pronouncement to the country was, we want to open the country to travel again. And during the pandemic, I've been following a lot of travel journals and videos, and a lot of surveys have been done around the world. Where would you like to go after we get through the pandemic? And Japan has appeared on each and every survey in the top 5. So Japan is excited. We're hoping that there'll be a reopening in late March. That is the period of the cherry blossom season. And of course, as we all know, the Olympics have been rescheduled for July of 23rd to August 8th, 2021. And the government is very keen to have the country open again for the Olympics. So saying that, we'll begin our journey with just a few short facts. Whether you're Canadian, American, European, Japan, you do not require a visa to enter the country as a traveler. As long as your passport is valid for at least 3 months after your departure, you are entitled to stay in Japan and travel for up to 30 days. The other question we're often asked is, when is the best time to visit? And I hope today that I can, really impart one piece of advice. I think Japan is an incredible year-round destination. But saying that, of course, in terms of weather and what's going on, there are times that, are important. In terms of weather, the spring and the autumn certainly are the best times to visit in terms of temperature, lower rainfall. And the other thing is spring and autumn mark 2 very important periods in terms of sightseeing. Of course, the spring is the time of the cherry blossom. And the Japanese, being so meticulous and so in love with the tradition of the cherry blossom, have kept meticulous records for over 60 years. And they have determined the peak period to visit for Tokyo and Kyoto, the main 2 tourist cities, is between March 25th and April 10th. That is sort of the window of time to really appreciate the blossoms. And then autumn, Japan has one of the most beautiful autumn foliage seasons anywhere in Asia, if not the world. And autumn in Japan usually starts mid to late October and runs into early December. So those are very important periods, but as I say, really it is a wonderful time to visit year round. So with that, I'll just would like to remind everyone that at Abercrombie & Kent, we do have an office on the ground in Tokyo. We do some wonderful brochure programs. One is Classic Japan, which our friends at Departures Travel can give you more information on, but it's a wonderful introduction. But for the purposes of this presentation, I really want to take you a little more in depth and show you the country that I just think is so spectacular. And this I call the wonders of Japan. It is an introductory visit, but it takes in some very different parts of Japan, beginning, of course, in Tokyo, Tokyo being the capital and the major gateway. From there, we go quickly to a wonderful place called Hakone. Hakone is often called the garden for Tokyo because it's so close. It's part of a beautiful national park. And from there, we travel across central Honshu, one of the main 4 islands of Japan, to visit a wonderful historic town called Takayama. Takayama is in the Japanese Alps, and it's your window to the past. It's a wonderful 19th century mountain village. And from there, we drive to the west coast to the Sea of Japan to Kanazawa. And en route, we make a stop at Shirakawa-go, which is one of the most beautiful villages in Japan. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But Kanazawa, for me, in all the years that I've been fortunate enough to explore Japan, I love Kanazawa. I think it's truly the antithesis of what it is that's so wonderful about Japan. And from Kanazawa, you take a train, and all trains lead to, of course, Kyoto. Kyoto was the capital of Japan for over 1,000 years. It is where all the great traditions of Japanese cultures flourished. So it is a must-see on any trip to Japan. And then in Kyoto, we do some day trips to Nara, to Hiroshima. And then you do not have to return to Tokyo to exit the country. You can actually fly out from Osaka, Kansai International Airport, which is just 90 minutes from Kyoto. So with that then, this is being recorded. If you want more details, this is the itinerary I'm taking you on. It's a little over 2 weeks. And I'll also discuss some other regions of Japan, which I think are wonderful and really great ideas for a post-COVID travel period. So we enter Japan, of course, in Tokyo. Greater Tokyo today has a population of 38 million people. It is still the world's largest megalopolis. It is the capital, the center for education, innovation, business, government, and all things that are new in Japan. So it is the place you want to start. As I said, we have a wonderful office, Abercrombie & Kent Japan, on the ground in Tokyo. It's staffed by 15 full-time travel professionals, along with 30 outstanding English-speaking guides. We are so fortunate. Like any place on earth, it is the people that really make the destination. And that is nowhere more true than in Japan. And at Abercrombie & Kent Japan, they really do a wonderful job. Now, I did mention at the beginning, I wanted to talk about why Japan is a year-round destination. I'd like to start to show you this in Tokyo. Last Christmas, I took my wife and children. We spent 8 days in Kyoto and 2 days in Hakone. And one of the things we did, Japan, one of the most popular times to visit is actually between Christmas and the Western New Year. Whereas Japan doesn't officially celebrate Christmas, it's one of the most popular festival times for young Japanese. So in Tokyo, the city has an illumination contest. So all the major wards or districts of Tokyo have these incredible light shows. This is Ginza. So we spent 4 nights going from Ginza to Roppongi Hills to Shinjuku to look at these incredible illuminations. I mentioned, of course, spring is probably the prime time to go because of the cherry blossom. And to the Japanese, the cherry blossom is a very important part of their culture. It's a symbol of renewal, rebirth, and hope. So they are hopeful that the cherry blossom 2021 will signal a reopening of travel. But in the summer, Tokyo has beautiful greenery in its temples and gardens. And of course, as I noted, autumn in Japan is just spectacular, as you can see from these beautiful autumn leaves. So let's start. Now, in Tokyo, we recommend you spend at least 3 nights, if not 4, so that you get a chance to really experience all the great diversity of the city. But the first place I always go to is to the Meiji Shrine. Meiji Shrine is the most important Shinto being an indigenous religion in Japan that focuses on man's role within nature. So at the Meiji Shrine, young couples who are newly married go to receive a blessing. So it's a wonderful place to get a sense of the great traditions and this deeply rooted culture through an institution like a wedding. And after strolling around the shrine, you walk 10 minutes into Harajuku and Ometsando. These are 2 of the most happening parts of Tokyo. And I always love to go here because this is where you see the youth culture. And Japan, you saw the scene of the young married couple in traditional robes. 10 minutes later, you're in the heart of this crazy culture of cosplay where young men and women dress up on the weekends as their favorite anime or cartoon character, where avant-garde artists meet in beautiful galleries. It really is where all the art and innovation of Japan is focused in Tokyo. And speaking of innovation, one of the most interesting and hottest sort of items to visit in Tokyo is something called Team Lab. And I highly recommend that if you see this presentation, to go onto YouTube, type in Team Lab, and get a sense of what is really one of the most interesting looks at virtual reality and art. Team Lab is a group of filmmakers and IT specialists who come together to create virtual reality art. There are 2 sites in Tokyo. One is called Team Lab Borderless, the other is Team Lab Planet. When you go in, you become part of this incredible artistic interaction. You become part of the virtual reality art experience. Now, having an office in Tokyo, we are able to get you tickets because there's a limited number of spaces available each day. It really is a highlight. And I must say, when I took my children who are adults now, we spent 2 full days going to each of the sites. We just fell in love with Team Lab. And another great place that celebrates innovation in Japan is the Ghibli Museum. Ghibli is devoted to anime. That is the wonderful tradition of Japanese animated cinema. It is a little ways out of Tokyo. It's about an hour from the city center, but highly worth the visit if you're interested in the culture of Japanese animation. And when you enter, what I love about it is there's a sign that says, if you're an adult, you leave your adulthood here and become a child again. And this site is particularly strict about the number of people that can visit each day. So as I noted, we are able to get tickets at any time. Also, Tokyo has become, one of the great art centers for Asia, if not the world. We are so fortunate. When we work in any country at A&K, we try to create experiences that go beyond just seeing a site. So we are very blessed to work with some great resources. The young woman in this photo is Natane Takeda. Natane is one of Japan's leading contemporary art experts. She actually ran a gallery in Soho in New York for 7 years, has returned to Japan to take part in this great sort of revival of contemporary art and design in Tokyo. And she works with our travelers to take you behind the scenes, into private collections, into galleries, to meet with artists, to find out what's going on today in Tokyo art. But of course, we're all about food, and Japan is one of the great, culinary experiences of the world. I'm sure every viewer knows some type of Japanese food, loves to eat Japanese cuisine. So part of a visit to Tokyo is to explore the culinary culture. And more than just going to a restaurant, we want to take you again to experience. So in Tokyo, I think you're all aware there are two incredible fish markets, Toyosu and Tsukiji. And Toyosu is home for the tuna auctions that are run daily, 2 times a day at 5 a.m. and 5:40 a.m. So if you're really interested and are willing to get up early, we have a wonderful program. We can take you to Toyosu with a sushi chef to see the auction, and the chef can explain to you what's going on and why it's so important. The other thing that we love to do is do cooking classes. So we can do a sushi making class, soba noodle making class to take you into the whole tradition. And on occasion, you get to see some very unusual auctions. This past August, there was a crab auction at Toyosu Market. The crab in this photo sold for the equivalent of 46,000 US dollars. So that just shows you how crazy the Japanese are for fresh seafood. But also, in addition to innovation, Tokyo is the seat of a lot of important culture. Of course, the most beloved sporting tradition is sumo. And we're very, very excited because we have a wonderful, what we refer to as insider access or special experience. We can, of course, get you tickets to a sumo tournament, but I must stress that sumo tournaments are not on a fixed regular schedule. They travel about the country at different times of the year. Sumo is based in Tokyo, but as I said, tournaments vary from city to city. So if you're not able to attend a tournament, we can take you behind the scenes to something I think is even more interesting, and that is to visit a sumo stable. The sumo stable are the traditional training centers where young apprentice sumos are initiated into the tradition. Sumo is more than just a sport to the Japanese. It is deeply tied to Shinto and this belief of man's place in nature. So when we go into the stable, we're given a whole lesson in the history, the cultural importance, how the young apprentice wrestler will work with a senior wrestler. He cooks his food, he cleans his room, and he takes lessons in the tradition of Shinto. It really is an incredible behind the scenes experience. But Tokyo is also a great sporting capital. And the most popular so-called modern sport is baseball. So for any baseball fans from North America, we can get you tickets. The Japanese Baseball League is equally fun and exciting like the Major League Baseball in the United States and Canada. Soccer, Japan has become one of the major soccer powers of Asia, and rugby. Last year, Japan hosted the World Rugby Cup. It's become the sport that's most fastest growing. So we are able to get you tickets to these experiences, but also we also want to have a little fun. So we work with a number of different cultural groups. So if you want to learn a little samurai sword play, we can take you for a samurai experience. Taiko drumming is the traditional drumming, court drumming of Japan. We can do a lesson. And if you like hiking, 1 hour outside of Tokyo is Mount Takao. Mount Takao is one of the best hiking areas around Tokyo. So in spring and autumn, it's a wonderful place to go hiking. And day trips. Tokyo is, centered near some wonderful spots like Kamakura. Kamakura is where you have one of the world's largest seated bronze Buddha. The Japanese Alps at Nagano are just, a 2.5 hour trip away. Or this beautiful shrine in Nikko. Nikko is 2.5 hours north of Tokyo. It was where the Tokugawa, the great family of shoguns, have their funerary memorials. So Tokyo has got wonderful experiences, both in the city and without. And don't forget, I did mention that the Olympics will be hosted again. Hopefully they'll be able to, go forward. They're from July 23rd to August 8th. We are very fortunate. If you need assistance, we do have access to hotels and can provide ground assistance. So we are very hopeful that the Olympics will go forward. Now, saying that, one of the most interesting experiences outside Tokyo during the winter months are to go up to Nagano to see the snow monkeys. I think you've probably seen these in nature documentaries. These monkeys live in a part of the Japanese Alps, and they are monkeys that live at the coldest places on Earth. So in the winter months, they come down to the hot springs to get a Japanese hot spring experience to keep warm. And this is best seen from late December to early March, but it is a doable day trip. So with that in mind, we'll say sayonara to our monkey friends, hop on the Shinkansen, which is one of the main bullet train lines to go to Hakone. And as I said, Hakone is just 43 minutes by bullet train, and it is called the Tokyo's back garden or backyard. And that's because it's one of the most beautiful natural regions accessible to Tokyo. It is part of the Izu Hakone Fuji National Park. It is the best place in Japan to see Mount Fuji, especially actually in the winter months when the weather is clear. And it has also, interestingly enough, become an incredible art destination. It is, as I say, you can visit year round. I did visit with my kids last Christmas. We spent 2 days hiking around this lake. This is Lake Ashur, and we got these incredible views of Fuji itself. Hakone is home to the Open Air Museum, which is one of the world's largest sculpture gardens, 19 acres with some of the great works of sculptors from around the world, as well as having a gallery devoted to Picasso with 700 works of Picasso, whether it's sculpture, lithographs, or drawings. And after Hakone, I noted we then travel across central Honshu to Kanazawa, but en route, we stop first at Takayama in the upper left-hand corner. Takayama is this incredible mountain village. Each spring and autumn, they have a beautiful festival, the Spring Festival and the Autumn Festival, and it's your mirror into 19th century Japan. And I noted we take a day trip to this village you can see in summer and winter. This is Shirakawa-go. Shirakawa-go, legend has it, was founded by a group of samurai in the 16th century. They built this village hidden in the Japanese Alps, and it has a very unique style of architecture called gaso, which are these A-frame thatched roof houses. They are a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So we spend about half a day before going on to Kanazawa exploring this beautiful village. And while we're in Takayama, of course, we want to give you an experience. We have a great relationship with this gentleman. He is one of the most famous sake sommeliers. You go to France, you go to the Napa Valley to experience wine, you go to Japan to experience sake. So on one of the evenings in Takayama, we can have a sake tasting experience. And with that, we end up in Kanazawa, which I said is my favorite city in Japan. I just truly cannot say enough about Kanazawa. It is called Little Kyoto because it has all the cultural riches of Kyoto without, the tourist crowds. I have to be honest, Kyoto is a beautiful city, but it does draw a lot of travelers. Whereas Kanazawa, you're often free of the crowds that, that can often be found in Kyoto. It is a city of all magnificent scenery. It's got one of the 3 most important gardens in Japan. This is the Kanruankan Garden. It is a classical Japanese garden. Each season of the year, it is beautiful, spring, winter, summer, or fall. And it is also why I love Kanazawa so much. It really is home to traditional Japanese culture. It is a Japanese city without much Western influence. So there are 3 different geisha districts in Kanazawa, none of which are commercial or tourism. They're there for the Japanese. So we can take you for an evening for a real geisha experience. It also has something very interesting. It has the only city in Japan with a samurai district. And that's because in the late 19th century, when the Meiji Emperor came to power, he disbanded the samurai and many moved to Kanazawa and retired to the city. So today they've preserved the samurai quarter. We can do a wonderful historic walking tour, which ends up at an incredible museum called Nomura House. And the Nomura House is dedicated to the whole tradition of samurai. So, Kanazawa is just this incredible repository of Japanese culture. It is also home to great theatrical traditions like kabuki and no, and I highly recommend at some point you do attend a performance. And for me, the highlight is the tea ceremony. Now, of course, you can do the tea ceremony in Tokyo or Kyoto, but at A&K, we do have a very special arrangement. We have a wonderful friend in Kanazawa whose name is Junko Asai. Junko's family has owned a garden for 400 years in Kanazawa, and for 400 years, their family have been the tea masters for Kanazawa. So we are able to take our guests or travelers into her garden. She, Junko, is the 7th generation family tea master. She takes us into their 400-year-old tea house, and Junko speaks fluent English. So she goes through the whole tradition of the tea ceremony. And it's more than just preparing a cup of tea. It is all about, the mystery of life. They have a saying, 4 characters, ichi ihui, which means we have this incredible chance to meet once over a cup of tea. This is, it brings out just the value of, an impromptu meeting. So if you're going to do tea ceremony, we can certainly arrange this very special experience in Kanazawa. And quickly, also Kanazawa is home to Japanese traditional arts, whether it's textile dyeing, ceramic making, gold leafing. Also, they have a wonderful tradition of Japanese sweet making. And it also has, being on the Sea of Japan, an incredible seafood market called Omicho. Omicho, like Tsukiji in Tokyo, has wonderful fresh seafood. And with that, from Kanazawa, we hop on the Thunderbird Express, another high-speed train that takes us to Kyoto. And I can't, overemphasize how important Kyoto is. I noted it was the capital of Japan from 794 to 1868, 1,000 years of, Japanese tradition. It is, in 2018, it was voted the most beautiful travel city in the world. So you definitely must include Kyoto. And I just want to show you so quickly some important iconic sites. This is the Kinkakuji, the Gold Temple. It is the most photographed site in all of Japan. This is the Fushinari Taisha Shinto Shrine. This is an incredible shrine that follows a hill. The hill is over 700 feet, and you travel through this incredible series of torii gates. Each of these gates is a donation from a local business, because Inari is the deity or the goddess of rice, which is the goddess of business. And this is Saihoji, the moss garden. So in Kyoto, you have incredible Buddhist and Shinto shrines and temples and gardens. Among the most famous is Saihoji, which is devoted solely to the cultivation of different types of moss. And in Kyoto, we love to create experiences, whether it's a morning meditation in a Zen Buddhist temple, of course, I said the tea ceremony, or to go to Arashiyama, the bamboo forest on the west side of Kyoto, for a bike ride, a hike, or just to photograph. And we're very fortunate we work with some wonderful resources who can take you behind the scenes to visit some of the beautiful Zen gardens of Kyoto. And of course, I did say that Kanazawa has the really traditional geisha. Of course, Kyoto, because of Memoirs of a Geisha, it also has a wonderful geisha tradition in an area called the Gion. We can organize private geisha experience. Again, this is a very important part of Japanese culture. And I know one of our secret weapons, or one of the things we're most pleased to have the relationship with this gentleman. This is Alex Kerr. He has lived in Kyoto since 1976. He is considered the world's leading specialist on Japanese culture who is not Japanese, but he should be, because he was born in the States, earned his PhD from Yale University in Japanese studies, immediately moved to Japan and has lived there for over 40 years. He has written 12 books in Japanese on the disappearing Japanese culture. One of his books was awarded one of the top literary prizes in Japan. And for A&K, if you're interested, Alex will take you on behind-the-scenes tours to the Zen gardens of Kyoto, show you intimate, gardens and architecture that normally tourists do not see. And on occasion, we are very fortunate, he will invite us into his home. Alex lives in a 400-year-old Japanese house on the grounds of a Shinto shrine. And he also holds one of the world's largest collections of Japanese calligraphy screens. So it really is a very special highlight. Now, I haven't really talked about accommodation, and I'm sure you're well aware that in Japan, one of the traditional styles of accommodation is the ryokan. Ryokan simply refers to a Japanese inn, but it is also a whole hospitality experience. And I think if you're going to travel to Japan, we strongly recommend at least one night or 2 nights at some point, you should have a ryokan experience. My recommendation is either in Hakone, which is, as I noted, close to Tokyo, or in Kyoto. Now, Kyoto is home to some of Japan's most historic ryokans, 2 of which are the Tararaya and the Hiragiya. These are family-run establishments. For instance, Tararaya has 500 years of history. So the ryokan is, again, really part of the whole travel experience. Now, we do day trips from Kyoto. One is to Nara. You can see here the deer park. Nara was the first capital of Japan. It was also where Buddhism flourished or began to take root in Japan. And among the sites you see is the incredible deer park. And that's because deer are a very important symbol of Buddhism. When Buddha gave his first lecture, the first creatures to listen to his words were the deer. So no matter where you go to study Buddhism in the world, you will learn that the deer is a very important symbol of Buddhism. And the other day trip is to Hiroshima. Now, Hiroshima is a very convenient bullet train. So 1 hour and 40 minutes from Kyoto. We all know Hiroshima because of World War II. It was the first city that had the atomic bomb dropped. There was an incredible museum and peace park. But beyond that, we take you to a beautiful island in Hiroshima Bay called Miyajima. Miyajima is noted because of this beautiful red torii gate. It is home to a large series of Shinto shrines. On the island, there are no vehicles allowed, so it's a great place to walk, hike, and see these shrines. Now, as I noted, on this trip, you can return to your home country via Osaka, but I want to just digress for a few more minutes to talk about some of the wonderful new destinations that we're very excited about in Japan. And this is really for a post-COVID period when you can get out of the cities and experience the incredible nature. And I should mention a very important fact I think no one realizes about Japan. 69% of the country is actually natural forest. So we think of Japan and Tokyo as being these densely populated country and cities, but Japan is home, 69% of the country is still forest. So one of the first new destinations we're very excited about is a place called Hakuba. Hakuba is in the Japanese Alps. It is, about 2.5 hours by bullet train and then a drive from Tokyo. It's home to this wonderful glamping or glamorous camping experience deep in the Japanese Alps. There are 8 luxury tents. Each tent is 1,000 square feet, and that includes a beautiful deck. They have a Michelin star chef, naturalists who take you on daytime hiking tours into the forests of the Japanese Alps. In the evening, you can sit and have an incredible dinner watching the stars while being serenaded by a string quartet. It really is, the ultimate sort of contrast to Tokyo. And this is Hakuba. Now, for people who are interested in art, there is an island called Nawashima. It's actually 3 islands in the inland sea. And it has become one of the world's great centers for international contemporary art, not just Japanese, but you have artists from around the world who go to exhibit, set up installations. Now, part of the difficulty about getting to Nawashima was accommodation, because on the main island, there's only one small hotel called Benesse House, which has 14 rooms. So getting space was always a difficulty. But now we're very excited to note there is a new cruise on the inland sea that visits Nawashima, and this is aboard the Gun-2. Gun-2 is the world's only floating ryokan. So it's a ship that's been converted into 19 ryokan suites. They also have, hot spring Japanese baths. So you can cruise the beauty of the inland sea and also then visit Nawashima. And I cannot stress enough just how interesting Nawashima is. It's actually 3 islands, Nawashima, Teshima, and Inojima. And on each of these islands, they've got artists, from the United States, Canada, Britain, Russia, throughout Asia, Japan, who come in the incredible installations, galleries, and museums. So anyone who's interested in art, a must-do is to go to Nawashima. So now you've got 2 options. You can stay at Benesse House, and we're lucky because having an office, we have a good relationship, and we can generally get you a room. But if you really want to enjoy 2 things at one time, you can do the cruise on the Gun-2 as well. The other place that's very unusual that we're really excited about is called Ise Shima. Ise Shima is a peninsula south of Nagoya on the Pacific Ocean, and it is home to a dying culture called Ama. Ama, you probably have seen these women. They are the Japanese pearl divers. Today, there are about 800 women who still practice this tradition. And we're very fortunate that we can take you to an Ama hut, fishing hut, have lunch with the Ama, and then they take you out into the bay and they show you how they dive, and they can dive down to up to 30 feet and hold their breath for 2 minutes. And traditionally, this is where they harvested the natural oysters for pearls. And if you're familiar with pearl types, Mikimoto, which is one of the world's great luxury pearl companies, started with the Ama in 1898. So this is a very unusual but very interesting visit. And for people who want to explore Ise Shima Peninsula, but stay in style, Aman Resorts have a beautiful property called Aman Imu, located on the Ise Shima Peninsula. And if you're a hiker, one of the things I'm really excited about is the Nakasendo Way. Between 1603 and 1868 was a very important period in Japanese history called the Edo period. And during the Edo period, they created a system of postal roads, sort of like the Pony Express in America. And these roads connected Kyoto with Tokyo, which was called Edo at the time. Today, the Japanese government has restored and fixed a lot of these trails and turned them into wonderful hiking routes. So the Nakasendo Way is an incredible place to do hiking, and you can hike to these villages, many of which are disappearing because of the modernization of the country, but you get to see, Japan of the 16th, 17th, 18th century on these incredible hiking trips. So that is the Nakasendo Way. And the other place is Yakushima Island. This is an island off the coast of Kyushu. Kyushu is the most southerly of the main islands. Yakushima is connected by ferry. It's very easy to access. It is called the Galapagos of Japan because it's got some of the world's oldest natural forests. Again, great for hiking. It's got pristine beaches, wildlife. It's another great sort of hiking and natural experience. Now, I said Japan is a year-round destination, and winter is becoming increasingly popular. And my friend Cynthia, who's a great skier, can attest to this. The northernmost island is Hokkaido. It's become home to some of the best skiing, not only in Asia, but in the world. It is home to several resorts that receive on average 15 meters or 50 feet of fresh powder snow each winter. So we're doing a lot of work. One of the major ski resorts is Niseko. It's the largest international ski resort in Japan. And Cynthia reminded me, there are 2 ski passes in North America. One is called Icon, one is called Epic, and Niseko is now part of these ski passes. Niseko actually has 5 resorts in a bowl of 5 mountains, and they've got ski in, ski out facilities, great accommodation, English-speaking ski instruction. So it really is, you know, if you're interested in seeing Japan in the winter, come and do a little skiing, and then go south to visit Tokyo and the other areas we've talked about. And also Sapporo, which is the capital of Hokkaido, is home each winter to one of the world's biggest ice festivals. So it's a real celebration of winter. And while we're on the island of Hokkaido, it is a year-round place to visit. It is also home to a unique culture called the Ainu. The Ainu are sort of, would be like our First Nations tradition in Canada. These are some of the early indigenous peoples. Their numbers are not that big, but you can visit Ainu areas of Hokkaido. And in the summer months, Hokkaido is an island of flowers. They have these beautiful gardens of different flowers, and you can do self-drive trips around the island to see these floral farms. And I'll end with the southern Japan, the very far south, and these are the Ryukyu Islands. The Ryukyu Islands begin south of Kyushu and go all the way down off the coast of Taiwan. They are home to some of the most pristine beaches, healthiest coral reefs in East Asia. If you want to see whales, manta ray, they're a wonderful place to visit. There are now a growing number of good resorts. Ritz-Carlton has a beautiful resort on the island of Okinawa, but Miyako, Yaeyama, Irimote, and Ishigaki all have great, seaside resorts. And as I said, you've got these beautiful beaches and, just an incredible experience and a great way to end a trip to Japan if you want a little time on the beach. And I will also mention that at A&K, we have a once-a-year cruise called the Wonders of Japan. This is a great experience. It's only once a year, but I think it's one of the best ways to see Japan itself. We charter one of the Ponant ships. We only fill it, I think, to a capacity of 199, whereas the ship itself can take over 260. All balcony cabins. We go with 11 onboard Japanese experts. You visit each of the main islands, so Kyushu, Shikoku, Honshu, and Hokkaido. We are able to access ports that the big ships cannot. And when you visit one of the ports, you get a choice of 3 different cultural experiences. So you're not limited to one, you can choose, and it's all inclusive. So I think in terms of value, as we know, Japan is not an inexpensive destination. This is all inclusive, including all your meals, your shore excursions, your drinks, your gratuities. So I think it's an incredible way to see Japan. It does sell out very quickly, because it's only offered once a year. So with that, I'd like to thank you for allowing me the time to take you on this very quick trip through Japan. But as I say, in the post-COVID world of travel, I think Japan really will be one of the destinations that you should consider for its culture, for its wonderful people, and just for this incredible meeting of innovation and tradition. So thank you very much. And this is a little salute to Canada and Japan. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald. That was absolutely stunning.
Oh, you're very kind.
Yeah. Gee, I don't know what to say. I'm a bit gobsmacked.
I wish you'd come to Japan.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you so much for being with us, Cynthia.
Thank you
so much for coming as well and bringing us all together. And we wish you the best of the holiday season. Have a visit with your family. Yeah. And how do you say happy holidays in Chinese or Japanese?
Okay, in Chinese say 圣诞快乐, 新年快乐, 恭喜恭喜大家，身体健康。
Exactly what you said.
So, yeah, so, and my best wishes to you and your family and all your friends for wonderful. Let's all focus on the new year and a return to travel.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And we'll
Well,
be seeing you in Hong Kong and Japan, I hope.
you bet, you bet. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
And thank you again for this wonderful opportunity, and thank you, Cynthia. And, you know, it's been very great to have this experience to visit Victoria again.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for joining us again. And we're going to be taking our holiday break, and we will be coming back in January. January 7th, we'll have Colin Price from Royal Caribbean, who's going to go and going to the opposite side of the spectrum. We're going to be talking about safe travel and bubble travel on a larger ship. So happy holidays, everybody, and we'll see you in the new year.
Thank
Thanks
you.
everybody. It was
Bye-bye.
great.
Thank you, Kathy and Kathy.